The smell of charcoal and lighter fluid should have been comforting. Instead, it reminded me of everything burning down around me. I stood at my own grill, spatula in hand, watching the neighborhood vultures circle my backyard like they owned the place. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Danny, honey, flip those burgers before they turn into hockey pucks, Shannon called out from her throne, our patio table surrounded by her real estate office cronies. Her voice carried that particular edge she'd perfected over 15 years of marriage, the one that made me sound like a trained monkey performing tricks. I flipped the burgers with more force than necessary, grease spattering onto the hot coals with angry hisses. "Yes, dear," I muttered under my breath, loud enough for Linda Martinez to hear from the neighboring yard. She was pretending to water her flowers while obviously eavesdropping on the circus next door. Shannon's laugh cut through the evening air like nails on a chalkboard. She was already 3 glasses deep into the wine I'd bought for this neighborhood barbecue, the one she'd insisted we host to strengthen community bonds. What she really meant was showing off our renovated backyard and making sure everyone knew she was the queen bee of Maple Street. "I swear, ladies, sometimes I think I should just trade Danny in for a newer model," Shannon announced, her voice carrying across the yard. "You know, something with better mileage and fewer maintenance issues." The women around her erupted in laughter. Megan Walsh, Shannon's best friend since college, nearly choked on her wine. "Oh my God, Shannon, you're terrible." "I'm serious, though," Shannon continued, warming to her audience. "I mean, look at him over there, grease-stained shirt, same cargo shorts he's worn for 3 summers, probably thinking about football or beer or whatever it is men think about. Sometimes I wonder if I could trade him for a decent bottle of Merlot. At least wine improves with age." More laughter. I felt my jaw clench as I arranged the burgers on the platter, each movement deliberate and controlled. 15 years of marriage, and this is what it came down to, being the punchline at my own barbecue. Linda's voice drifted over the fence, dry as sandpaper. "Hell, Shannon, I'll take him off your hands. My garbage disposal's been acting up for weeks, and Danny actually knows which end of a wrench to hold." The laughter turned awkward, uncertain. Even Shannon's cronies seemed to sense they'd crossed a line, but not Shannon. She raised her glass like she was making a toast. "See? That's what I'm talking about. At least Linda appreciates practical skills. Danny's like a Swiss Army knife, not pretty to look at, but handy in a pinch." That's when I snapped. I set down the spatula, wiped my hands on my cargo shorts, the ones she'd just mocked, and walked over to their little circle. The conversation died as I approached, 8 pairs of eyes tracking my movement like I was a wild animal that had wandered into their garden party. "You know what, Shannon?" I said, my voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet backyard. "You're absolutely right. I am practical. Practical enough to remember that those designer shoes you're wearing came from my practical paycheck. Practical enough to fix the practical problems you create when you forget to pay the practical bills because you're too busy having practical lunch meetings with your practical co-workers." Shannon's face went pale, then flushed red. "Danny, what are you—" "Oh, I'm just being practical," I continued, smiling at the circle of women who suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. "Like how I practically pretend not to notice when you come home at midnight smelling like someone else's cologne. Or how I practically ignore the credit card bills from restaurants I've never been to. Very practical of me, don't you think?" The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Megan shifted uncomfortably in her chair. 2 of the other women were staring at their wine glasses like they contained the secrets of the universe. That's when Troy Henderson spoke up from across the yard. He'd been standing by the beer cooler, probably calculating how much free alcohol he could consume before anyone noticed. Troy worked in mortgages, drove a BMW that cost more than I made in 6 months, and had the kind of artificially white teeth that screamed, "Trust me with your life savings." "Hey now, Danny," Troy said, walking over with that practiced smile he used on clients. "No need to get all worked up. Shannon was just having a little fun with the girls. You know how women are when they get together, all talk, no harm meant." He clapped me on the shoulder like we were old buddies, but I saw the look that passed between him and Shannon. Quick, almost imperceptible, but loaded with meaning. The kind of look that said they shared secrets I wasn't privy to. "You're right, Troy," I said, not moving away from his hand on my shoulder. "Women do love to talk, especially about their hobbies. Shannon's always been passionate about her extracurricular activities." Shannon stood up so fast her chair nearly tipped over. "That's enough, Danny. You're embarrassing yourself." "Am I?" I looked around the circle of faces, some sympathetic, others uncomfortable, all of them hungry for drama they could dissect later over phone calls and coffee dates. "Because I thought I was just participating in the conversation. You wanted to trade me in, right? Maybe Troy here would be interested. He seems to appreciate quality when he sees it." Troy's smile faltered for just a moment, but he recovered quickly. "Some women just have good taste," he said, the words carrying a weight that made my stomach clench. The barbecue was over. People started making excuses, gathering purses and empty wine glasses, promising to call later. Within 10 minutes, our backyard was empty except for Shannon and me, standing among the debris of our marriage like survivors of a particularly ugly war. "We need to talk," Shannon said, her voice tight with controlled fury. I looked at the abandoned burgers, now cold and congealing on their platter. "Yeah," I said. "I think we do." But as I started cleaning up the mess, I couldn't stop thinking about that look between Shannon and Troy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the real conversation was just beginning. The house felt like a tomb after everyone left. Shannon had stormed inside ahead of me, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors like a countdown timer. I took my time cleaning up the backyard, partly because someone had to do it, and partly because I wasn't ready for whatever was waiting inside. When I finally came through the back door, Shannon was standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed, still wearing that red dress she'd bought specifically for tonight. The one that cost more than my monthly car payment. "What the hell was that about?" she demanded, before I'd even set down the platter of ruined burgers. "That was about you humiliating me in front of our neighbors," I replied, opening the refrigerator and grabbing a beer. "But I guess that's nothing new." "Humiliating you?" Shannon's voice pitched higher. "Danny, it was a joke. A harmless joke between friends. You're the one who turned it into some kind of public spectacle." I popped the beer open and took a long drink, studying my wife's face. 15 years of marriage, and I was seeing her clearly for the first time. The way her mouth tightened when she was caught in a lie. The way her eyes darted away when she was hiding something. "Harmless," I repeated. "Right, like those late nights at the office are harmless, like those mysterious charges on our credit card are harmless, like the way you and Troy looked at each other tonight was harmless." "Troy?" Shannon's laugh sounded forced. "Are you seriously jealous of Troy Henderson? Danny, he's a colleague. We work in related fields. Of course we know each other." "Know each other," I said, nodding slowly. "Is that what we're calling it?" Shannon turned away from me, busying herself with wiping down counters that were already clean. "You're being paranoid, and frankly, you're being embarrassing. Do you have any idea how that looked tonight? My own husband attacking me in front of our friends?" "Your friends," I corrected. "And I didn't attack you. I defended myself. There's a difference." "Is there?" Shannon whirled around to face me, because from where I was sitting, it looked like you were having some kind of breakdown. "Maybe you should talk to someone, Danny, a professional. This jealousy, this paranoia, it's not healthy." I stared at her, amazed by her ability to flip the script. Somehow, in the span of 10 minutes, I'd gone from being the wronged party to being the one who needed therapy. "You know what's not healthy?" I said. "Being married to someone who thinks so little of you that she uses you as entertainment for her book club." Shannon's face softened slightly, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of the woman I'd married. "Danny, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I really am. But you have to understand, it was just girl talk. We all complain about our husbands sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't it?" We stared at each other across the kitchen island, 15 years of marriage reduced to this moment of mutual recognition. She knew that I knew, and I knew that she knew I knew. "I'm going to bed," Shannon said finally. "We can talk about this tomorrow when you've had time to calm down." She walked past me toward the stairs, pausing at the doorway. "And Danny, next time you want to embarrass me in public, maybe think about what that does to both of us. We have to live in this neighborhood. These people are my clients, my professional network. Your little outburst tonight might have cost us more than you realize." I listened to her heels click up the stairs, each step driving home the distance between us. Then I heard our bedroom door close with a soft but definitive click. I finished my beer standing in the kitchen, looking out at the backyard, where just an hour ago, my marriage had publicly imploded. The citronella candles were still burning on the patio table, casting flickering shadows across the empty chairs. Sleep was impossible. I tried lying on the couch, tried watching late-night television, tried reading a book I'd started months ago. Nothing worked. My brain kept replaying the evening, analyzing every word, every look, every interaction. Around 2 a.m, I gave up and went to the kitchen to make coffee. That's when I saw it. Shannon's tablet, plugged into the charger on the counter. She'd been using it earlier to show photos from her latest real estate listing, some McMansion on the other side of town. I stared at the tablet for a long time, knowing that looking at it would cross a line I couldn't uncross. But the way she'd looked at Troy, the way he'd smiled when he said, "Some women just have good taste," it ate at me like acid. I picked up the tablet. Shannon had never been good with technology. She used the same password for everything. Our anniversary date followed by her initials. The tablet unlocked on the first try. I told myself I was just checking email, maybe looking at her calendar to see if those late nights were really work-related. But the text messages were right there, the little notification bubble showing dozens of unread messages. The first few were harmless. Appointment confirmations, messages from other real estate agents, a reminder about Megan's birthday party next week. Then I saw Troy's name. The messages went back months. At first, they were professional, questions about mortgage rates, discussions about mutual clients. But gradually, they became more personal. Complaints about work stress, jokes about annoying spouses, and then, "Can't stop thinking about last Tuesday. When can we do it again? Danny's working late tomorrow. My place at 8? You make me feel alive again, like I'm more than just a suburban housewife." He doesn't suspect anything, too busy with his garage projects to notice what's happening under his own roof. I scrolled through months of messages, each one a knife twist in my chest. They'd been meeting regularly, sometimes at Troy's apartment, sometimes at hotels, once even in our own house while I was at my nephew's baseball game. But the worst part wasn't the affair itself. It was the way they talked about me. Danny fixed the garbage disposal today, so proud of himself. If only he put that much effort into other areas of our marriage. At least he's useful. My ex-husband couldn't change a light bulb. Sometimes I feel guilty. Then I remember that he chose to settle for ordinary. Some people are just meant to be background characters in other people's stories. I set the tablet down with shaking hands. Background character. That's what 15 years of marriage had made me. A supporting player in my own life story. But as I sat there in the dark kitchen, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and raw, but underneath it was something else, something cold and calculating. Shannon wanted to trade me in? Fine. but she was about to learn that some trades come with hidden costs. I picked up the tablet again and started taking screenshots. The next morning, Shannon acted like nothing had happened. She came downstairs in her power suit, grabbed her coffee and a yogurt, and kissed my cheek like we were still the happy suburban couple from the Christmas cards we sent out every year. "I have showings all morning," she said, checking her phone. "Then lunch with a client. I'll probably be home around 6. "Lunch with Troy?" I asked casually, buttering my toast. She didn't even flinch. "Troy and I don't have lunch meetings, Danny. He handles mortgages, I handle sales, different sides of the business." The lie rolled off her tongue so smoothly, I almost admired the technique. Almost. "Right," I said. "Different sides." After she left, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and the screenshots from her tablet. The evidence was damning, but it was also just the beginning. If Shannon wanted to play games, I was going to learn the rules. My first call was to Jake Morrison, my oldest friend and the owner of the Rusty Nail, the dive bar where I'd spent more evenings than I cared to count. Jake had been through 2 divorces and had the scars to prove it. "Danny boy," Jake's gravelly voice came through the phone. "Little early for a beer run, isn't it?" "I need advice," I said. "The kind that comes with a shot of whiskey." "Ah, hell. Shannon? Shannon. Come on down. I'll put on a pot of coffee and we'll talk." The Rusty Nail at 10 in the morning was a different creature than the evening version. Harsh fluorescent lights revealed stains and scars that the dim evening lighting mercifully hid. Jake was behind the bar, wiping glasses with a towel that had seen better decades. "So," he said, pouring coffee into 2 chipped mugs. "What's the damage?" I told him everything. The barbecue, the tablet, the messages. Jake listened without interrupting, his weathered face growing grimmer with each detail. "Jesus, Danny," he said when I finished. "How long you think this has been going on?" "Based on the messages? At least 6 months. Maybe longer." Jake shook his head. "And this Troy character? You know him well?" "Thought I did. He's been to our house for parties, neighborhood stuff. Seemed like a decent guy." "They always do," Jake said bitterly. "That's how they get away with it." We sat in silence for a while, drinking coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since the Clinton administration. "So what's your play?" Jake asked finally. "I don't know yet. Part of me wants to confront them, throw the evidence in their faces, and watch them squirm. And the other part? I thought about Shannon's words from the night before, about me being a background character, about Troy's smug smile and his comment about women with good taste. The other part wants to make them pay." Jake studied my face carefully. "Danny, I've known you for 20 years. You're not a vindictive guy. Don't let this change who you are." "Maybe who I am is the problem," I said. "Maybe being the nice guy, the reliable guy, the guy who fixes the garbage disposal and grills the burgers and pays the bills, maybe that's why I'm sitting here having this conversation. Or maybe you married the wrong woman." I finished my coffee and stood up. "Either way, things are going to change. What are you going to do?" I looked around the bar, at the faded photographs and dusty trophies, at the evidence of Jake's own battles with life and love. "I'm going to stop being a background character." The first step was information. I drove to Troy's office, a gleaming glass building in the business district, where Shannon's real estate company was also located. Convenient for their lunch meetings. I parked across the street and watched the building for an hour, learning the rhythms of the place. Troy drove a silver BMW with vanity plates that read Lone Star. Even his license plate was a bad pun. At 11:30, I saw Shannon's red Lexus pull into the parking garage. 5 minutes later, Troy emerged from the building and got into his car. They were probably meeting at their usual spot, the Marriott downtown, based on the credit card charges I'd found. I followed at a distance, my hands tight on the steering wheel. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that this was all some elaborate misunderstanding. But when I saw Troy's BMW in the hotel parking lot next to Shannon's Lexus, that last shred of hope died. I sat in my truck for 10 minutes, staring at their cars. Then I got out and walked over to Troy's BMW. The key made a satisfying scraping sound as it carved a line from the front bumper to the back taillight. Then I took out a piece of paper and wrote a simple message. Trades off. I tucked the note under his windshield wiper and drove home. That evening, Shannon was late. She came through the door at 7:30, full of apologies about a difficult client and unexpected paperwork. "How was your day?" she asked, the same question she'd asked 1,000 times before. "Productive," I said. "Very productive." She didn't notice the screenshots I'd printed and hidden in my desk drawer. She didn't notice that I'd opened my own checking account and transferred half our savings. She didn't notice that I'd changed the password on our home Wi-Fi network. But she would notice. Soon enough, she would notice everything. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Troy. "Someone keyed my car. You know anything about this?" I looked at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. The war had begun, and I was no longer content to be a casualty. 3 days after I keyed Troy's car, Shannon came home with news. "The Hendersons are having a pool party this Saturday," she announced, setting her purse on the kitchen counter. "Troy specifically asked if we were coming." I looked up from the newspaper I was pretending to read. "Did he now?" "Yes, and I think we should go. After what happened at our barbecue, it would be good to show everyone that we're still a united front." United front. The irony was so thick I could have spread it on toast. "Sure," I said. "Sounds fun?" Shannon smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in days. "Great. I'll pick up a bottle of wine to bring." "Make it a good one," I said. "Something worth trading for." Her smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "I'll find something appropriate." That night, while Shannon was in the shower, I made my preparations. I'd spent the week gathering intelligence, following routines, learning schedules. I knew that Troy's ex-wife picked up their kids every other weekend. I knew that Megan Walsh was out of town visiting her sister. I knew that the Hendersons' pool party was the perfect opportunity to execute my plan. I also knew something else, something I'd discovered by accident when I was photographing the evidence on Shannon's tablet. In her email drafts folder, there was a message she'd never sent, addressed to her divorce attorney. It was dated 3 months ago, long before our marriage had publicly imploded. She'd been planning to leave me anyway. The affair with Troy wasn't just about passion or excitement, it was her exit strategy. She was going to trade up, just like she'd joked about at the barbecue. But now I had a better idea. Saturday arrived with the kind of perfect weather that made suburban gatherings feel mandatory. Shannon spent an hour getting ready, changing outfits twice before settling on a sundress that showed just enough skin to be interesting without being obvious. "How do I look?" she asked, spinning in front of the bedroom mirror. "Like $1 million, I said. "Troy's going to love it." She shot me a sharp look. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, just that you look beautiful. You always do." The compliment seemed to confuse her more than reassure her, but she didn't press the issue. The Henderson house was already crowded when we arrived. Kids splashed in the pool while adults clustered around the bar and buffet table. Troy was holding court near the grill, wearing board shorts and a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Danny! Shannon!" He waved us over with the enthusiasm of a game show host. "Glad you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, shaking his hand perhaps a little too firmly. "Nice car, by the way. I saw it in the parking lot. That scratch buffed right out, didn't it?" Troy's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Yeah, it did. Funny thing about that scratch, it appeared right after our conversation at your barbecue." "Weird coincidence," I agreed. "You never know what kind of people are out there, vandalizing other people's property." Shannon was watching our exchange with growing alarm. What scratch? What are you talking about? Nothing important, Troy said quickly. Just some minor damage. These things happen. I excused myself to get a drink, leaving Shannon and Troy to their awkward small talk. But I wasn't really going to the bar. I was positioning myself for phase 2 of my plan. The Hendersons had a beautiful backyard, complete with a sound system that connected to their home Wi-Fi network. The same network I'd hacked into 3 days ago using Troy's own laptop, which he'd carelessly left unlocked at a coffee shop while he went to the bathroom. I pulled out my phone and opened the app I'd installed. With a few taps, I connected to the speakers and uploaded the audio file I'd prepared. "Attention, everyone," I called out, raising my beer bottle. "I'd like to make a toast." The crowd quieted, turning their attention to me. Shannon looked nervous, probably remembering how my last public speech had gone. "I want to thank our hosts for this beautiful party," I began. "And I want to thank all of you for being such wonderful neighbors and friends. You've really shown me what community means." Polite applause rippled through the crowd. "In fact, you've taught me so much about friendship and loyalty and trust that I wanted to share something special with all of you, a little behind-the-scenes look at what real relationships are like." I tapped my phone, and suddenly Shannon's voice filled the backyard, crystal clear through the surround sound speakers. He doesn't suspect anything, too busy with his garage projects to notice what's happening under his own roof. The crowd went silent. Shannon's face went white. Danny fixed the garbage disposal today, so proud of himself. If only he put that much effort into other areas of our marriage. Troy started moving toward me, but I was already backing away, keeping the crowd between us. Sometimes I feel guilty. Then I remember that he chose to settle for ordinary. Some people are just meant to be background characters in other people's stories. Now Troy's voice joined Shannon's, their intimate conversations playing out for everyone to hear. "When can we do it again?" "Danny's working late tomorrow. My place at 8? You make me feel alive again." Shannon was pushing through the crowd, trying to reach me, but people were backing away from her like she had a contagious disease. The audio kept playing, months of their affair condensed into a 5-minute highlight reel of betrayal and mockery. "Turn it off!" Shannon screamed. "Danny, turn it off!" "But this is what you wanted," I called back. "You wanted to trade me in, remember? I'm just giving everyone a chance to hear what they're getting in return." Troy finally reached me and grabbed for my phone, but I was ready for him. I tossed the device to Jake, who had arrived fashionably late and was watching the chaos with grim satisfaction. "You son of a jerk," Troy snarled, drawing back his fist. "Go ahead," I said. "Hit me, in front of all these witnesses. I'm sure that'll help your reputation." The audio file ended, leaving the backyard in stunned silence. 40 people stared at Shannon and Troy like they were exhibits in a zoo. "You want to know what's really funny?" I said, my voice carrying clearly in the quiet. "She was going to divorce me anyway. Found the draft email to her lawyer. This whole affair was just her way of lining up the replacement before she pulled the trigger." Shannon was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "Danny, please." "Please what? Please keep being the background character while you and Troy write your love story? Please keep paying for the hotel rooms where you two discuss what a disappointment I am?" I looked around at the faces of our neighbors, our friends, the people who had laughed at Shannon's jokes about trading me in. "Well, congratulations," I said. "The trade is complete. You can have each other." I walked toward the gate, pausing only to retrieve my phone from Jake. "Enjoy the pool party," I called back. "I hear the entertainment is really something special." As I drove away, I could see people in the backyard pulling out their phones, probably already posting about the drama on social media. By tomorrow, everyone in town would know the story. Shannon and Troy had wanted to humiliate me, to reduce me to a punchline in their grand romance. Instead, they'd become the joke themselves. And I was no longer anyone's background character. The fallout from the pool party was swift and brutal. By Sunday morning, Shannon had moved out, taking only her clothes and personal items. She left behind the furniture, the dishes, the life we'd built together, or that I thought we'd built together. She also left behind a note. "Danny, what you did was cruel and vindictive. I never meant to hurt you, but you've destroyed any chance we had of ending this civilly. My lawyer will be in touch." I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. Civil. She wanted to talk about civil after 6 months of adultery and public humiliation. The phone calls started Monday morning. Some were sympathetic. Linda from next door, a few guys from work, my sister calling from Phoenix. Others were less supportive. Megan Walsh called to scream at me for destroying Shannon's reputation. I hung up on her, but the most interesting call came from an unexpected source. "Mr. Cooper? This is Janet Phillips from Phillips Realty, Shannon's boss. I was wondering if you might have time to meet for coffee this week." "I don't think Shannon would appreciate that," I said. "Actually, Mr. Cooper, Shannon is no longer with our company. That's what I'd like to discuss." We met at a Starbucks downtown, far from the suburban gossip mill. Janet was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that probably served her well in real estate negotiations. "I'll get straight to the point," she said, after we'd ordered our coffee. "Shannon's affair with Troy Henderson has created a significant problem for my business. 3 clients have already pulled their listings, and I've had 2 agents threaten to quit if I don't take action." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, though I wasn't sorry at all. "The thing is, Mr. Cooper, this isn't the first time Shannon has been involved in inappropriate behavior with a client or colleague. I've had complaints before, but nothing I could prove. Your presentation at the pool party provided the evidence I needed to terminate her employment." I sipped my coffee and waited for her to continue. "I'm also aware that Troy Henderson has been engaging in some questionable mortgage practices, inflated appraisals, falsified income documents, that sort of thing. I've reported my suspicions to the state licensing board." "That's very civic-minded of you." Janet smiled grimly. "It's also very profitable. Shannon and Troy cost me clients and reputation. Now they're both facing professional consequences that will follow them for years." After she left, I sat in the coffee shop thinking about the ripple effects of my revenge. I'd wanted to hurt Shannon and Troy, to make them pay for their betrayal. But I was starting to realize that the damage extended far beyond what I'd planned. That evening, I was working in my garage when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked up to see Troy's BMW, now sporting a fresh paint job where I'd keyed it. He got out of the car and walked into the garage without being invited. "We need to talk," he said. "Do we?" Troy looked like hell. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive clothes wrinkled. The cocky confidence that had defined him was gone, replaced by something desperate and angry. "You destroyed my life," he said. "My ex-wife is using that recording to fight for full custody of my kids. My boss is threatening to fire me. I can't show my face anywhere in this town without people whispering and pointing." "Sounds rough," I said, continuing to work on the engine I was rebuilding. "Shannon's a wreck. She's staying at her sister's place, crying all the time, talking about leaving town. Is that what you wanted? To destroy 2 people completely?" I set down my wrench and looked at him directly for the first time since he'd entered the garage. "You know what I wanted, Troy? I wanted to come home to a wife who respected me. I wanted to go to neighborhood parties without being the punchline. I wanted to believe that 15 years of marriage meant something. So you decided to ruin us instead?" "I decided to tell the truth. You and Shannon are the ones who ruined yourselves." Troy stepped closer, his hands clenched into fists. "You think you're so righteous, don't you? The wronged husband getting his revenge. But you know what you really are? You're a bitter, pathetic man who couldn't keep his wife happy." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'm not a cheating, lying piece of garbage who seduces other men's wives and then acts like the victim when he gets caught." That's when he swung at me. I saw it coming and ducked, letting his momentum carry him past me into the workbench. tools scattered across the floor as he caught himself. "Feel better?" I asked. Troy straightened up, rubbing his ribs where he'd hit the bench. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I said. "It's been over since the moment you decided to sleep with my wife. Everything that's happened since then has just been the consequences catching up." He left without another word, tires squealing as he backed out of my driveway. 2 weeks later, I heard through the neighborhood gossip network that Shannon and Troy had both left town. She'd moved to California to stay with her sister. He'd taken a job in another state, something about needing a fresh start. I never saw either of them again. The divorce papers arrived a month later, along with a settlement offer that was surprisingly generous. Shannon wanted out quickly and quietly, with minimal drama. I signed everything and sent it back the same day. 6 months after the pool party, I was officially single again. I kept the house, kept my job, kept my life. But everything felt different now. The neighbors treated me with a mixture of sympathy and wariness, like I was a wounded animal that might bite if approached too quickly. Linda from next door brought me casseroles and invited me to dinner with her family. Jake offered me a job managing the bar if I ever wanted a career change. My sister called every week to check on me. But the person who surprised me most was my 16-year-old daughter Ava, who had been spending summers with Shannon and me since my brother died 5 years ago. She called me the day after the pool party. "Uncle Danny? I saw the video on TikTok." Someone had recorded my revenge at the pool party and posted it online. It had gone viral in our small town, with dozens of comments and shares. "I'm sorry you had to see that, kiddo." "Are you kidding? That was epic. Aunt Shannon always acted like she was better than everyone. It's about time someone called her out." "It's not that simple, Ava. People got hurt." "Yeah, but they hurt you first. Sometimes people need to face consequences for their actions." Out of the mouths of babes. A year later, I was sitting in my backyard. The same backyard where my marriage had publicly imploded. Grilling burgers for a much smaller gathering. Linda and her kids, Jake and his new girlfriend, a few guys from work, no drama, no backstabbing, no hidden agendas. Just people who actually liked each other spending time together. "Danny," Linda called from the patio table, "these burgers smell amazing. You sure you don't want to trade places with my ex-husband? He can't even make toast without burning it." I laughed, flipping the burgers with practiced ease. "Thanks, but I'm done with trades. I'm keeping what I've got." "Smart man," Jake said, raising his beer bottle. "Here's to knowing your worth." "I'll drink to that," I said. As the sun set over my backyard, I thought about Shannon and Troy, wherever they were now. I hoped they'd found whatever they were looking for when they decided to blow up their lives for a few months of excitement. I also hoped they'd learned the same lesson I had, that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences follow you no matter how far you run. But mostly, I just hoped they stayed away. I'd spent too many years being the background character in someone else's story. Now I was writing my own, and it was turning out better than I'd ever expected. The trade was complete, and I'd gotten the better deal after all,